Good evening, good night, good morning. I'm not sure at what point you'll be watching this, but I want to just welcome you to Beyond the Silence, Beyond the Pain. And the last podcast we did was cultivating healthy relationships, which continues to be on the same YouTube channel, Beyond the Silence, Beyond the Pain. But as of March 31st, which is today, we are having 3 sessions. The first one is infidelity abusive? And so that's what we're going to be talking on today. Next week, we'll be talking on what is a narcissist. And so I look forward to this series of sessions, and I welcome you again, Dr. Allen. Thank you so much for coming on. Dr. Allen is of the organization Whole Person Growth Facility, and he has a wonderful website by the same name, Whole Person Growth. And you can tell us a little more about it if you want, Doc. But this website is an excellent website that provides lots of information that tells us about how we can be whole persons. It looks at all aspects of our life, our nutrition, our health, or psychiatric health, and the whole 9 yards. And so it is worth having a look at. And I've used it. I refer to it in my book, Blink Twice, which is a book that is targeting people who have been through domestic abuse or persons who need to understand a little more about this. Well, as you know, Doc, we've had some wonderful times together, and I'm expecting for us to have some more wonderful times together, even as we help to educate people and to make them understand that they're not alone in some instances, and let them understand that these things exist in some instances. So over to you, Doc.
Yes, well, the whole matter of cheating, infidelity, there are different situations in which this can happen. And we need to recognize the difference. First of all, we need to recognize that we are human beings, and we're animals. you know. So, you who have ever had dogs, you have to put up a chain link fence that is rooted in concrete. Because if you have a male dog and there's a female dog next door in heat, that dog will find any way to get across to the other dog. And that is, So we are human beings, and we are created with sex hormones that link up to your brain. And also they say that the brain is the biggest sex organ. So when you think of David, for example, and Bathsheba, and he's seeing this woman up there bathing, naturally you're going to expect that he's going to be turned on, you know. And there may be different situations in which people may get turned on, whatever. So we have to recognize that we are human and we are vulnerable to temptation. Nothing is wrong in being tempted, but the difference is how much you're going to court that temptation. You're going to revel in it. You're going to go and act on it. And, there's a matter of consequences and how you deal with it. So we recognize that we are human, that we are vulnerable to temptation. Fine. We're going to condemn anybody for that. But the next stage of it now is that, okay, you have some people who may get involved in cheating or adultery because of lack of wisdom, and they may have gotten themselves in a bad situation. You could have a boss who was a secretary, and boy, he could be going through a lot of difficulties, and then he's staying home late to work, and the secretary staying home late, and one thing and the next, and boy, pressure lick him and him and then what you find sometimes is when pressure licks some people, You have people of the opposite sex who are ready to be there, shoulder
Of
to cry
course.
on, and I will help you and I'll do everything. You know, there's a story about these when you used to watch movies, westerns. There's this man in the desert, this cowboy in the desert, can't get to any water. Next thing you see the buzzards flying around, as we call them, John Crows in Jamaica. you know. So for every person who is having difficulty, there are persons of the opposite gender, the opposite sex, who are
Waiting.
there to comfort and they have their own agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be wise. So there are people who were not wise and they get in trouble. But it's not their intention
Yeah.
to be unfaithful, or to let the wife, the spouse suffer, male or female, woman, same thing. They want a husband to suffer. So when it happens, they're going to be the first ones now to go to their partner and say, look, I am
Yes.
very sorry that this happened. It was not my intention, and I confess. And, now what you find happening is that when somebody is the victim of adultery or cheating, any way you take it, that person is going to be traumatized.
Oh, yes.
And we need to recognize that. And I'm going to describe that right now. First of all, there is the sense of betrayal. This person betrayed, our
Trust.
commitment to one another, commitment to be faithful. And if I am betrayed, and sometimes the person may tell lies, right? And then how do I know when the person is lying or not? So the lack of trust, the breakdown of trust. Then there's also the aspect of self-esteem goes down because the woman or the man who is being cheated on may figure, you know, was that person better in bed than I? Were they more handsome or more pretty than
Mm-hmm.
I? And they begin to feel like they are second best now.
Yeah.
And that's a damage to the ego, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's another aspect of the trauma. So there's this feel of betrayal, mistrust, fall of self-esteem,
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the flashbacks with all this hurt and pain. And it will take time because the imagination. Go back to the time when he came home late. Go back to the time when he told you. Go back to the time when you're thinking about the woman. She keep coming up in your head, or the man
Mm-hmm.
keep coming up in your head, and you keep thinking about these things going round and round, and it can't stop. It will take months, 6 months, sometimes years
Yes.
before one gets over it. Now, the husband who or the spouse who made a mistake who admits the mistake is not their intention to be a cheater. They will say, look, they will be empathetic and say,
Mm-hmm.
look, I
Sorry.
understand, and apologize. And when the spouse begins to, cry or question them or express their pain, the cheater who lacks empathy and who's has the intent to cheat will say, "What you going for? Me apologize already. You can let it go now." They're not empathetic to understand the trauma. But the
Ah,
person who did not cheat because of entitlement or habit, you know, would be there to comfort and to provide the extra support and help to take the spouse through the trauma to a
exactly.
point of healing. And they'll be willing to go for therapy and
Yes.
so on, to help the healing. So that's a situation where we're saying people are tempted, people
Make a
can be
mistake.
unwise, but if they if it's not their intention or entitlement, then they will take a certain approach.
Yeah.
But then you also have now, when you look on the matter of you're going to have people who this cheating becomes a part of what you want to call um the power and abuse
Power
cycle,
control cycle.
power and control. Because
Yes.
remember, that domestic abuse, the purpose is to have power and control, right? So there is a feeling now that, okay, I have my wife under control. I'm controlling her financially. Only get money when I give her. When she go to the supermarket, she must give me a bill. I must approve of everything. Otherwise, it's trouble. I am going to restrict her talking to her family and friends. So I'm going to try control her relationships. I'm going to control her career
Mm-hmm.
and sense of independence. So she don't have to work. She can just stay
Stay
home,
home.
look after the kids and look after the house and be my helper, and my partner in bed and so. And that's fine. I don't care about what fulfillment she feels also. She don't have to work. I will provide everything. So there are all these ways of power and control. And of course, when I want to have it, I must have it.
Mm.
So therefore she must be a glorified, well, I'm not going to use the term, but a bed partner. But when the person power and control, right?
Yes.
But then there's a sense of entitlement that is part of the person's cycle now. Like when you have a washing machine, you wash, you rinse, and you repeat. You press the button, so this person figures, well, look, anything now, anything that come my way, it mustn't pass me. And you have some men, that's part of what you call toxic masculinity. So nowadays, more women too, because you have more women who are believing that I have an entitlement to enjoy myself. If I say a young man, he's strapping on him, nice looking and thing, why not? So it's part of. So I'm not into getting moralistic. That's not the issue.
Right.
The issue is talking about power and control and being sensitive to any hurt and trauma,
That's
you
it.
know. So because if you're not into power and control, then you're going to be empathetic as we spoke before, and help the person deal with it and so on and
Yeah.
get healing and what have you. So here we have, so there's a sense of entitlement. Anybody mustn't pass me, power and control,
Mm-hmm.
part of a regular cycle. And there's also the gaslighting.
Yeah.
So what that means now, because the thing to recognize, and you will probably talk about it,
Yeah.
from my experience, I'll tell any man, or any spouse, because your spouse knows your movements. They know when you come in, when you go out, when you come home. They know the look on your face. They know how to read you. Because this is what a part of friendship and getting close means.
Yeah.
And I say to people, to men, you can never cheat on your wife, don't know. They can sniff it out, they can sense it.
That's it.
And the same way the opposite side.
Yeah.
So when they are saying there's still something that's right, and they mention it now, the man say, what you talk about? you know, you
You're
think
making
I
up
would do something like
stories.
that? Me, I would never. So
Right.
God, you know,
Right.
I swear on my mother's grave, I would never do it. And who are you now to
Yeah.
come and judge me like that? What
Yeah.
are you saying about me?
Yeah.
you
I
know?
mean, you know what would happen to me as well, Doc, is that because I had an experience where my ex-husband would come home like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, consistently. There was no cell phone, so I couldn't know where he was. I remember people always ask me the question, so where's your husband? And I was like, I don't know. And they would say, but it's your husband, you're supposed to know where he is. And I'm like, I've never known where this man is. Every now and again, my daughter says to me, Mommy, it's almost like he had another life somewhere because literally we didn't know where he was for most of the time. And so he would come in, and this is probably why my sleep patterns are still all messed up even to this day, where I'm waking up like 3 in the morning to see where he is, trying to hear whether the car is coming, not sure whether he's alive or dead, because you can never tell. I mean, when somebody is missing at 3 in the morning, you don't know. It could be that particular morning something happened. And so he would come in and, you know, there would be a way in which the conversation. So I am saying, where are you coming from? What is happening? Do you have another relationship? No. And somehow, by the end of the conversation, whether it was the fact that I used the wrong word and like in talking about it, I might have said something derogatory. He would pick on that word and he would hold on to it and he would say, "But you said that I was whatever, and you said that," and sometimes it would bring me to tears because I'm thinking, what have I done? I've done something wrong. When this is a man who is sleeping out every single night and he's coming to me, and at the end of the day, I am feeling bad about the fact that I said some wrong little word somewhere. And I did not even know it was gaslighting. I didn't know. It was when I was writing the
Yeah.
book that I found this word gaslighting. And I'm like, this is what I have been putting up with or had been putting up with. By the grace of God, I was able to escape. But it's like you're thinking to yourself, and the other aspect of it, and I must say this part, Doc, is that when you are sleeping with a man who you don't know where he is sleeping, you're putting your life at risk because there are diseases that you can catch. And not only that, sex is such it is like your spirit is connected with another person, and that spirit comes into your life and the person is denying it. So you can't even take it to the church and say, "Boy, this man is sleeping with somebody," because he's lied.
Mm, mm, mm,
And this is why sometimes, you see these young people have these things called catfishing, where they literally have people trailing these people because they're so lie that the only way is to catch them in the
mhm,
act.
mhm, mhm,
And sometimes
mhm,
maybe that's what you have to do, because other than that, it's like it plays on your mental.
mhm,
You're
mhm,
trying to figure out, is something wrong with me? Am I
mhm, mhm,
accusing this person of something that they're not doing? Suppose they're just having a drink with their friends, but something
mhm,
isn't right.
mhm,
Something isn't
mhm,
right, and something
mhm,
isn't right, and you just
mhm.
can't do anything about it because you're not even given the facts. You're not given the
Yes.
truth.
See, and sometimes these people are masters of deception
Oh,
because they will have friends that they pay dominoes, or sometimes they may have a late meeting at work. Sometimes they may have to go to the country for various things, and the other spouse may know it.
mhm.
And they can lead a double life that they say, okay, they will plan. And you see, people who are the other woman or the other man, they are prepared very often because they're getting money in many cases. Sometimes they're being put up in an apartment, because where there's the power and control and financial control, the man control the money, so he can do his thing,
Mhm.
and it's not a joint account. The abused spouse does not know what's going on, so that woman is prepared to take her 2 hours a day, or 6 hours a week or whatever.
That's
She's
it.
getting the money, a nice apartment and whatever. She will take that. Because she can't find a man in some instances or whatever,
Mm.
Anyhow, um, so so the master of this, he say, "Oh, I'm paying dominoes or whatever, whatever," and there's no reason not to feel like this is not so,
Yeah.
you know. But then you smell a little perfume, or you
Doc,
might find sometimes the
lipstick.
sex is more spirited, more alive, they're more romantic,
Mm.
all the little telltale signs
Yeah.
that people can pick up,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Yes, and of course, so the thing is this now. Um, One of my positions is that um, for a marriage to work, there needs to be transparency and also what I call peer support. Because, as you were saying, somebody all right, let me put it this way. Both people need to know at any time where the other is.
Yeah.
Because you have crime, so crime, you could be out on the road, you
Yes.
get a flat tire,
Yes.
anything could happen. You have an accident, you could be in the hospital,
Mm.
in the emergency room, and one does not know. Next thing you hear that the spouse is in a morgue somewhere.
Mhm.
And these are the fears that people have, which are understandable.
Yeah,
So to be transparent means that both people, when they are out, they will say, okay,
this is where
I'm
I
going
am.
out to this place.
Yeah.
And well, now you have the phone, so you know where to call the person. And they will say, okay, will come home back around this time. So if the person is going to be late, they say, I said I was coming at 8, but we're held up and I'm going to come in at 9 instead.
Mhm.
And very often the person would, if it's a little later, she would call and say, okay, I'm leaving now to come home.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
if they're much longer,
Anything on the way.
something is wrong.
Yes.
Yes, and it
And that's
goes both ways.
just like normal
Mutual
behavior. Yes.
accountability. And
Yes.
that leads for trust
That's
and
it.
sense of well-being and so on. But this toxic masculinity is saying, if I do that, my wife woman, make the woman control me. And me a pure man. I mean, a real man, he can't go and do what him like. His wife have to sit down and just
Why
take
do you
it.
get married? Why do you get married? You
Well,
don't
that
need
is
to be
it.
married.
Yes,
Live a single life then.
yes.
Don't
You
torment
see?
somebody. Don't torment a woman.
Yes. So a man who is strong is a man who is able to, or a woman, take care of one's spouse. When I say take care, not in a patriarchal way, but it's a mutual taking care. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Each person takes care of the other and try and nurtures the other sense of well-being and security
That's it.
and trust and lack of trauma
Yes.
and so on. The other necessary thing beside mutual accountability and transparency is the aspect of peer support. Remember, I said we are vulnerable, we are prone to temptation. So it's good for a man, and women are very bad at that. We don't express our feelings to our partners. And when we get with our bodies, it's politics we are talk and sports and champs. We're talking about man thing. But
Mm-hmm.
we don't talk about our feelings. We don't talk about our relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But if one has friends who mean you well, why not when they say, boy, I fix up a thing for you now. you know, I find a good woman, man, I fix her up for you. No, you're leading your friends further into grief. But if you have the friends who you can say, boy, if I find myself getting over my head, I'm going to call you and you just talk me down so we can get out and run quick. So
That's
that
it.
positive peer support, supporting healthy relationships.
Yes.
All spouses need that
Yes.
as well. So these are practical ways to prevent this temptation. For example, you know, a woman who is in an apartment has to be careful about, letting a man come in and both of them are in this apartment alone.
But
I'm
doc,
not saying what it must be mistruck, but I mean, listen, we are human beings, you know. Um, Also, somebody like a pastor dropping home a member late at night, only two of them in the car and it's a long drive. Again, temptation can come,
yeah.
you know. And sometimes the other thing, as I was saying earlier, there are people who are setting up to get into a relationship and mash it up. And they
Yes.
are going to say, beg your drive now. I was calling my taxi, but boy, you take pity on them, man. you know. So we have to find ways to
To
protect and
protect
to be
yourself.
sensible.
That's it.
There was an evangelist named Billy Graham. And he always said that anytime he had a meeting, a business meeting with a female, he would sit in outside of a restaurant open
Mm-hmm.
where everybody could see. Because
Yes.
somebody might go back to his wife and say, Mrs. Graham, I saw your husband. And he would call her and tell her, hi, darling, I'm with Lottie, you know, and I'm at this restaurant. So anything come to her, she know
She
already.
knows already.
Yes, so
Yes, I know.
there's total
Transparency.
transparency.
That
If a
that is
boss is coming home late, he said, darling, I'm with so and so, I'm coming home at this time. The wife, of course, probably will get to know the secretary well and they are, so, be sensible. and have these means to prevent getting in that situation.
That's it. That's it.
Yes. So if David, because you see this temptation, what happens is that your emotions can call what you call emotional hijacking.
Yeah.
It cannot hijack the frontal lobe, which
Mm-hmm.
is the part of the brain that reasons is this right or inappropriate. Reasoning and um decision making, wild
Yes.
decision making. But very often when we get in these situations, reason is gone to the wind. And you find that David sent her husband to the battlefront to die. So he could be a way out of the picture. So he could have his way
Yep.
with Bathsheba. So we don't know what as human beings we can do if we
Yeah.
don't have this transparency, the peer
Definitely.
support, the practical safeguards as we are human beings.
Yes. And I'm
Yes.
glad
So
you made the distinction between that one off, falling in sin, because that's to a certain extent,
in
you know,
temptation.
yeah, it's not excusable 100%, but I can understand a woman forgiving her husband or a husband forgiving a wife for doing something. And if the person is remorseful, because God forgives, God forgives, and that is part of what Christianity is about. It's about forgiving. But when the person takes it and rubs it in your face,
Hmm,
I
hmm,
remember there was one point at which I was weeping because of what had happened. And he just walked away from me and said, "Oh, that's, get over it."
hmm,
I was freaking out. I was like, I couldn't believe the level of coldness this man was to me. And I was like,
hmm.
this man don't love me no more.
Lack of
I need
empathy.
I need
Hmm,
to get out
hmm,
of this marriage. And that's what I did. I planned
hmm,
it and I got out. And then
hmm,
all of a
hmm,
sudden he's bawling down the place, wanting back his
hmm,
wife. And I'm thinking, is this the same man who just few months ago was telling me that him don't care about the fact that I was so hurt by the situation? I mean, the man come home with lipstick on his breast. Now tell me now, how does lipstick get to somebody's breast? And then he denies that it's even there.
hmm. Is there and he say, what? You
It's
are
not
saying
even
that you're
there.
lifting me?
See the
You
thing,
wonder, am I crazy? Am I hallucinating?
you understand what I'm saying? And I'm
Mm-hmm,
thinking,
mm-hmm,
these are the kinds of things that poor women have to, you're gaslighted
mm-hmm,
on something that you're seeing with your own two eyes.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
These
mm-hmm.
are the kinds of painful things that women go through. And this is why it's important we make the distinction, because, you know, there are cases where people fall to temptation, but and marriage, I still say people must protect their marriages, work on their marriages, but there are some
Mm-hmm.
situations that you need to walk away from.
Yes. And
You
of course,
must walk away from. And the
the, the,
earlier you walk away from it, the
the
better.
better. Yes. You see, the, what I will say is that when you look at marital relationships and how it works, um, what you find is that intimacy building is very important. And then, we have spoken about in the past healthy relationships,
Yes.
cultivating healthy relationships, and the empathy and listening and tuning into people's feelings and being able to care for each other and manage conflict in a meaningful way, I statements rather than you statements, all these ways to cultivate healthy relationships.
Right.
So if you're working on that, what that means is that when you come to your own sexuality, you build intimacy.
Yes.
So you try to make it romantic. You will date regularly because they say foreplay begins with dating.
Yeah.
Or it may begin the day before, where the man just nibbles on the lady's ear. You build a romantic
Right.
setting, and you have a romantic relationship, and you're not going to use sex as a weapon. I'm feeling tired just to spite the other person. If you're having a conflict and you feel off, sit down. Work it out. Deal with it. Don't let the night pass. Or if
Yes.
the night don't pass, the next morning you get up, deal with it. So now the day, you can go with the day and you're together again. So there are times when intimacy is not married, not dealt with properly. Sometimes you may have one spouse too caught up with their work. The
Mm-hmm.
work-life balance is not maintained,
Yes.
and they may be depressed and need to get help. They may have a physical illness and
Mm-hmm.
may need help to with their sexual drive, whatever. So to maintain healthy sexuality, enjoyable sexuality. If this is neglected and there are problems in this area, sometimes it can cause a person more to be more prone to temptation.
True.
And you're not defending that.
Yeah.
But then if it happens, and this is where the therapy comes in now, you say, well, let us get therapy to see if there's anything
That we
that
need
could
to do.
make one more vulnerable,
Yes.
and you try to heal that breach to have less vulnerability. So
Yes.
these are the positive things
Yes.
that one does to build a healthy relationship, to avoid, cut down the vulnerability to cheating.
Yes. And
And
I want to just go back to that question because the question that was raised for this topic is is adultery abuse? Is that what the question is?
yes,
Infidelity abusive?
yes. Well, this is the thing because what we are saying, remember, I spoke about the trauma that the woman goes through.
Yes. Or the man.
And the man, the
Yes.
other partner who is
Yes.
being cheated on,
Yes.
the trauma you're going to have, the sense of betrayal, that's a painful thing.
Yes.
Losing trust when you have the lying, feeling a lack of self, is something wrong with me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then the repetitive going over in your mind,
Yes.
what were they
What did I
saying?
do wrong?
What did I do wrong? What did the woman do to get? And,
Yes.
and I said that the trauma can go for months or even years. And you
Yes.
have what you call post-traumatic stress disorder, which goes for years. It can
Years and
affect
years.
one's health.
Yes.
It
You
can
can't
People can be
sleep.
prone to heart disease or other stress-related conditions.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
affect one's physical health or
Yeah.
even one's longevity.
Yes.
Longevity. So it is very traumatic, and that's why, in a case where somebody is deliberately cheating, where one is gaslighting, lacking in empathy, shifting blame, feeling entitled, a part of their cycle, this is all abuse, and it's one of the worst types of abuse. So yes, cheating, infidelity, is a form of
Of
abuse
abuse. And as
when
I've
it is not
always
just a
said,
matter of one-off weakness and lack of wisdom, when it's a matter that entitlement, part of the person's cycle, there is lack of empathy, there's gaslighting, shifting of blame, all these things, then it's a matter of abuse, power, and control, right?
Amen. And as I've always said, if you're in an abusive relationship, it's time to get out.
Yes. As
There's
with
no
any
other
form
solution.
of abuse,
Get
then
out.
one has to plan how to deal with it and plan all the ways. We'll come to that in another podcast
Indeed.
about how to deal with an abusive relationship. But
Yes.
one knows this is not going to work. I am going to suffer, and I have to find a way to get out of this situation
Indeed.
of one's
Indeed.
well-being.
So
Yes,
thank you again, Doc. Thank you for your wealth of wisdom and all that you have provided us tonight. And I said tonight, it might be this evening. And
yes.
so we look forward to next week when we look on the narcissist.
And I'll just mention one thing that is we have to remember culture. That there are some cultures where And this is where I come to a weakness.
Yes.
Some cultures where, because of a background of colonialism or oppression, slavery, or different types, where you have men who are not secure, men who never grew up in a healthy family, or it could be just growing up in a family where there was abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So one's culture, one's family of origin, all these things could predispose.
Yes.
But there are some cultures where, and I'm not talking about where there is polygamy or polyandry.
Yes.
These are
That's
situations
different. That's
where it is
different.
different,
Yeah.
you know. But
Yeah.
where there's a feeling, boy, if you're a man, and you have to keep proving your manhood.
Yes.
Because if you miss 3 months and you can't get it when you want it, there's that sense of insecurity.
Yes.
There's male insecurity, and
Yes.
some cultures lead to male insecurity.
Yes.
Even in the church, in the workplace, there can be this male insecurity that can lead to harassment in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
It's another whole type of abuse.
Yes.
Male insecurity,
Indeed.
male lack of self-control. All right.
Yes. So thank you again, Doc. And as I said, next week we're going to be looking on the narcissist, and I so look forward to that. All right. So have
Great
a great
pleasure.
day, everybody.